Hi, my name is Theresa Molloy and I'm president of the NIRI New York chapter, and welcome to NIRI Headliners in partnership with Business Wire. I recently had an opportunity to talk to Tom Robey, who is former Senior Vice President of Investor Relations at Time Warner Cable. Tom and I talked about the recently closed Time Warner Cable Charter Communications merger, a roughly $80 billion transaction. Tom and I talked about the importance of investor relations as it relates to any M&A transaction. Stay tuned to hear from Tom Robey. Tom, thanks very much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
Happy to do it.
So, last month you closed on the Time Warner Cable Charter Communications merger, a roughly $80 billion transaction. Can you give us a little bit of background of the history of the deal?
Sure. It's kind of a long and twisted tale that spans about 3 years. It included a hostile takeover bid, the emergence of a white knight, and then the government rejected that merger, which sent us back into an auction process where yet another party emerged. In the end, Charter won the battle. Good for them.
Okay. Now, along the way, I'm sure that you had access to many advisors. Can you talk a little bit about who those key external advisors were and what type of information did they provide to you?
Sure. I think like most firms, we have very long-standing productive relationships with legal advisors on the outside as well as investment bankers. These are folks who know the industry very well, they know us very well, they know all the players very well. We supplemented that with a crisis communications firm. And I'll be candid, I was a little skeptical up front of the value they would bring. But a merger between two cable companies is very interesting to the news media. And so it got a lot of coverage, and it turns out that this crisis communications firm had what seemed to me to be almost unique access to certain people in the media. So it was surreal to wake up in the morning and to see the talking heads on CNBC reiterating our deal points as if they were their own original thoughts. This firm was worth its weight in gold.
Right.
A little tough to manage, worth the weight in gold.
Okay, great. Proxy Advisors.
I'm a little skeptical of Proxy Advisors as well, but we found a firm that is, I think, in this case, very unique in that all of their principals are former heads of proxy governance at large investors, very large investors. So they knew not only who we should talk to, they knew how these people thought. They knew how these people make decisions. In the end, we averted the proxy battle, but I would do it again. I would want these guys in our corner and not working for the other guys.
Interesting. What about the internal team, outside of IR? Who were the key players on your internal merger team?
When the process started, we had a new CEO. I think on day 14 of his tenure, the hostile bid showed up. The good news was he had been at our company and at Time Warner Inc. for 20 years prior to that, much of it in M&A.
Right.
So he was our standard bearer, and he convened a team every morning, first thing, the usual suspects, the CFO, corporate communications, M&A, and all the external advisors for a call for our strategy for the day. And at the center of that was investor relations, because the adversary's strategy here was to drive a wedge between us on the one hand and our largest shareholders on the other. And what made the difference was the knowledge of exactly what the shareholders were thinking. And we had that uniquely in the room.
Absolutely. What about, so talk a little bit about the communication between your IR team and your investors. How did that change over the period of the transaction?
Well, it was awkward at first, obviously, because the hostile party was trying to paint us as being unreasonable because we wouldn't accept their bid and being entrenched. We had only one message. Our message was, we're the guys who are here to maximize long-term shareholder value. So we actually named the price at which we would sell the company. The advisors didn't really like that. And every action we took thereafter demonstrated to our shareholders that we actually were in the business of maximizing shareholder value. It built a tremendous amount of trust.
Excellent. So if you could give our audience who at one point or time or another in their careers, they may be sitting in your seat, what's some advice that you could give to the IROs out there based upon your experience?
Maybe just one thing. I'd say the knowledge that you have of where your shareholders stand. The relationships that you have with those shareholders, as well as with the sell side, is invaluable. And much as you might have other advisors who bring value to the table, your knowledge is unique. And in our case, I think that knowledge went a long way to making the difference to a very happy outcome.
Terrific. Well, the information that you've shared with us today, I'm sure will be invaluable to our audience. So I can't thank you enough for joining us, Tom, on behalf of the NIRI New York chapter as well as Business Wire. Many, many thanks for your time and your insight.
My pleasure.